Hi guys, good morning. Today's video is in English language, so if you will see any mistakes, then you can correct me down below in a comment. I hope you're having a cozy start to your day, or at least a strong coffee as I do. I've got mine right here and I'm slowly waking up while getting ready. So I thought we could hang out a bit today. I will do my makeup and fix my hair, and while I do that, I want to talk about something I've been into lately. How your diet affects your skin, especially when it comes to aging. Like, I know we've all heard "you are what you eat" a million times. But honestly, the connection between nutrition and skin aging is way deeper than just drinking more water. There's actual science showing that certain foods can protect your skin, boost collagen, reduce wrinkles, and make your glow last longer. And others that, well, might do the opposite. So if you're into skincare but also like food and want to age like a fine wine, this one's for you. Alright, let's get started. I'm going for a soft natural look today, just enough to feel put together but still glowy. And while I do that, we'll go through some of the most important nutrients and habits that can literally help your skin age better from the inside out. So, one sip and let's go. Okay. Let's start with one of my all-time favorites, vitamin C. I mean, we all love a good vitamin C serum, right? That glow, that brightness, the whole antioxidant thing. But here's the deal. Using it topically is amazing. But if you're not getting enough of it in your diet, you're kinda missing half of picture. Vitamin C is a total skincare superhero. Not only does it protect your skin from free radical damage, which basically means slowing down the whole aging process, but it's also essential for making collagen. Like, your body can't literally build collagen properly without enough vitamin C. So if you're wondering why your skin is not bouncing back or looking kind of meh, check what's on your plate. Some of the best sources are so easy to add in. Oranges, strawberries, kiwi, red bell peppers. Even just squeezing some lemon into your water can make a difference. I personally love starting my day with warm lemon water. It feels fancy and it actually helps. And the thing is, our bodies don't store vitamin C, so you need to get it daily. No vitamin C means slower healing, duller skin, more visible fine lines, so not cute. Yeah, glow from the inside out, literally. I usually try to combine both. I use a vitamin C serum in the morning and then make sure I eat something rich in it before lunch. A smoothie, a fruit salad, even just a handful of berries. It's easy and honestly, your skin will thank you. Okay, so if vitamin C is a Batman, then vitamin E is a Robin. Like the supportive sidekick you need for the mission to success. They seriously work better together. It's one of these skincare combos that actually backed by research. When you combine them, they boost each other's antioxidant power, which is kinda cool. So what does vitamin E actually do for your skin? Well, it protects the lipid layer, aka the fatty part of your skin barrier. Yeah, I know it sounds a little weird, like fat in my skin, but it's super important. Your skin's barrier is what keeps all the good stuff in, like moisture, and all the bad stuff out, like pollutants and irritants. And vitamin E is like this little bodyguard for that layer. If you're ever dealt with dry, flaky, irritated skin, your barrier probably needed some love. Vitamin E helps keep it soft, smooth, and strong, which means fewer fine lines, less redness, and better glow overall. You'll find it in foods like sunflower seeds, hazelnuts, almonds, and oils like sunflower oil, olive, and wheat germs oil. And honestly, even just using a bit of cold pressed olive oil on your salad does more for your skin than you would think. Or a handful of almonds as a snack Perfect. Topically, vitamin E is super hydrated too. But just like vitamin C, getting it through your food is what gives you that long, firm, full body support. Plus, it helps protect your cells from oxidative stress, basically aging in slow motion. So yeah, think of vitamin E as your interior skin moisturizer. Keep it in your routine, inside and out. I think your skin barrier will love you. Unfortunately, I had to take a break, but I'm coming back. The sun already has set, so now I have two lights and I hope you can see something. But I still have to get ready, and also I want to finish this video. Alright, let's talk about omega-3s, the real MVPs when it comes to skin health. If your skin is feeling dry, irritated, super sensitive, or you're breaking out more than usual, it might not be just your skincare. It could be that your body is missing these healthy fats. Omega-3s are amazing because they help calm inflammation throughout your entire body. And when your body is inflamed, it tends to show up first on your face. We're talking about redness, flakiness, breakouts and dullness. The kind of general, oh, why does my skin hate me vibe. Sound familiar? Yeah, I've been there too. But when you're getting enough omega-3s, your skin barrier stays stronger, your moisture stays locked in, and your face is chilled out. They are basically like a soothing, healing oil from the inside. You can find them in foods like fatty fish, think salmon, sardines, mackerel, or in plant-based options like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, even algae-based supplements if you're vegan. Personally, I love throwing some chia seeds into my smoothies or oatmeal. It's such an easy win. Also, if fishing isn't really your thing, totally okay. A high quality supplement can make a huge difference. But always check the label, because not all omega-3s are created equal. You want EPA and DHA. Those are the ones with the biggest benefits for skin. Omega-3s make happy barrier, less redness, better texture and more glow. They are one of those little things you don't notice right away, but after a few weeks, game changer. Okay, now here's a spicy one. We're gonna talk about sugar. Yeah, I know, I hate to be that girl too. I love dessert. I am not giving up chocolate, let's be clear. But hear me out. This one is actually super interesting and kind of scary in a science nerd way. So, there is this process called glycation. It's when sugar molecules in your bloodstream attach themselves to proteins like elastin or collagen, the stuff that makes your skin smooth, firm and bouncy. And when that happens, those proteins get stiff and brittle. Basically, they lose their flexibility. And when that happens, they break out faster, which means, wrinkles, sagging, and dullness. So it's not just about getting breakouts after eating sweets. Sugar can actually age your skin from the inside, and you don't even notice it right away. Now, I'm not saying never eat sugar again. Life is too short and tiramisu exists. But it is more about balance. Like, if you're going to have dessert, try pairing it with fiber like berries or chia, or eating it after a meal with protein and fats. That slows down the sugar spike and help reduce the whole glycation effect. Also, antioxidants are your besties here. Think vitamin C, vitamin E, polyphenols from green tea, berries, even dark chocolate in moderation. They help neutralize free radicals and reduce the damage. So yeah, the next time when you're reaching for that third cookie, maybe pause for a second. Or just grab a handful of nuts with it. Little things like that actually go a long way for your skin. And honestly, your future face will thank you. Okay, let's not forget the classic. Hydration. Yes, I know, drink more water is the most boring skincare advice ever, but also still true. But here is the thing. Hydration isn't just about chugging 3 liters of water and hoping for the best. It's way more fun and effective when you think about it through food too. So, water keeps your skin cells plump, elastic and happy. When you're even slightly dehydrated, your skin shows it fast, like dullness, flakiness and fine lines popping out of nowhere. And I've noticed personally, when I don't hydrate enough, my concealer creases more and my skin looks tired no matter how much highlighter I use. It's a thing. But instead of just drinking plain water all day, which, let's be real, gets boring, try adding hydrating foods to your meal. Things like cucumbers, tomato, lettuce, celery, melon, strawberries. They are full of water plus vitamins, minerals and antioxidants. It's like feeding your skin from the inside with juicy goodness. Even something like a big salad for lunch or smoothie with cucumber and berries can make a huge difference. And don't forget about electrolysis too. Sometimes it's not just water we need, but things like potassium and magnesium to actually absorb and use it. So foods like bananas, leafy greens, coconut water, also amazing for skin hydration. So yeah, dry skin, don't start with expensive creams. Start with your plate and your water bottle obviously, but food hydration is the underrated hero here. Alright, while I'm curling my hair, let's talk about something I totally used to overlook, but now I'm kind of obsessed with zinc. If you're someone who deals with breakouts, slow healing, or super oily skin, zinc might be that low-key hero you didn't know you needed. It's not the flashiest nutrient, but it is doing a lot behind the scenes. So, what does it do? First, it regulates oil production, which is a big deal if your skin tends to get shiny or clogged easily. It also helps reduce inflammation. So those angry red breakouts, zinc helps calm them down. And third, it supports skin healing. So whether it's a pimple, a scratch, or even a little post-acne mark, zinc helps your skin repair itself faster and cleaner. I used to completely ignore zinc, like I didn't even think about it. But once I started eating more pumpkin seeds, lentils, chickpeas, quinoa, I genuinely noticed the difference. And it's not like overnight miracle, but after a few weeks, fewer breakouts, faster healing, just generally happier skin. You can also get it from seafood, especially oysters if you're fancy like that, or from beef, eggs, even whole grains. And if you're plant-based, soaking or sprouting your legumes and seeds help your body absorb zinc better. It's a fun little tip here. And honestly, zinc is tiny but mighty. Definitely worth checking if you're getting enough. Especially when your skin feels like it's constantly in a battle mode. So glowy skin, it's not just about what you put on, it's also about what you feed it from the inside. And zinc is included. Okay, one last thing before I finish getting ready, and it's a biggie: protein. People love talking about collagen those days. Powders, gummies, all that. But here's the truth. Collagen is a protein and so is elastin. Those are the two major structural components of your skin. So if you're not eating enough protein, your skin literally doesn't have the raw materials. It needs to stay firm, elastic, and youthful. And I know some of us, me included, go through phases where we're like, I just want smoothie and call it a day. But if there's no solid protein in there, your skin's gonna feel it over time, not right away, but it builds up. And I want to tell you some of my favorite easy protein sources: eggs, Greek yogurt, tofu, also tempeh, beans, lentils, chicken and fish, whatever fits your vibe or your diet. And if you're on the go, a simple protein smoothie or bar is better than nothing. And also, don't forget that protein doesn't just help maintain skin structure, it also helps with repair. So if you got any damage, scarring or inflammation, protein helps you bounce back faster. So don't skip protein. Your skin needs this as much as your muscles do. Okay, and quick bonus before I go. Let's talk about gut health. It might sound not skin related, but it totally is. If your gut's out of balance, your skin shows it. Breakouts, dullness, inflammation, you name it. So keep it simple. Eat fiber, fruits, veggies, oat, add prebiotics like garlic and onions, and get those probiotics. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, all that good funky stuff. Maybe it's not glamorous, but it works. Better digestion, less inflammation, and healthier glow. So yeah, gut health is your secret skincare weapon. Thank you so much for getting ready with me. Let me know in the comments which tip you're trying first. If you like this chill mix of skin, food, and coffee talk, hit like and subscribe. So see you in the next one. Stay glowing and take care from the inside out. Loves, bye bye.